Blues. At 11 it's the Blues Brunch with Blues King Nuri Nuri. The Blues Hound takes over at 2 with Hauling the Blues. To round up Blues Sundays it's Clint Broussard with Blues and Hi-Fi. A great day of blues, Sundays here on KPFT.
This is KPFT Houston.
Looking out a dirty old window, down below the cars in the city go rushing by. I sit here alone and I wonder why. Friday night and everyone's moving. I can feel the heat but it's soothing heading down. I search for the beat in this dirty town. Downtown the young ones are going. Downtown the young ones are growing. We're the kids in America. Whoa. We're the kids in America.
Welcome to Growing Up in America here on KPFT Pacifica Radio. I'm Bob Sanborn along with Bree. Bree, how you doing? Bree Derry.
I'm so good, Dr. Bob. How are you doing today?
I'm doing super well. We have a great show, and I guess I've been gone for a couple weeks, right?
You have, and I've changed your show a little bit.
So the show has been better than ever without me, so I'm sort of a little hesitant to be back, but I'm so excited to be here. So on the program today, we're going to start off with a bang, right? We're going to go with our Gen Z correspondent. Raegan Roylance is in the house, and we're going to be looking at hip speak, which I'm very excited about.
Hip speak, yeah, it's going to be great. She's put a lot of time and effort into it, and I cannot wait to get in touch with the younger lingo, as they say.
And that's something you really care about, the younger lingo, right?
Oh, clearly, very much so with that
right.
statement. Mm-hmm.
Bree is always on TikTok trying to learn the younger lingo. I mean, that's a big deal. So with a Gen Z correspondent here, we're going to be all set. So also in the program today, Cesar Espinosa is with us today, the executive director of FIEL, and we're going to be talking about the future of DACA. No matter who wins the election, there is a future there. We just don't know which way it's going to go, so we'll be talking a little bit about that. Melanie McGuire will be joining us. She's the Senior Director of Programs with the Houston Food Bank. What are we talking about with Melanie, Bree?
Ooh, I'm excited. So it's going to be fiscal-oriented, but all the education service trends they've been seeing in this fiscal quarter.
Wow, very interesting. Von Keller, Shirvonti Keller, with Cherish Our Children, will be talking about supporting youth with incarcerated family members, which is something we hardly ever talk about, but needs to be spoken about.
Absolutely. Those kids need so much support and they go through so much. So I'm really excited to hear what she has to say when she joins us.
Ryan Fountain will be with us. He's with Out for Education, talking a little bit about student empowerment, Bree.
Yeah. So Out for Education is a really cool, very inclusive, LGBTQ-friendly organization. I'm excited to speak with him, too.
Very good. And do we have data of the day today?
Oh, we do.
Do you remember the number?
14%, sir.
14%.
What do you think it is?
14%. Wow. It's some percentage of children is my guess.
Oh, that's very, very close, I'm sure.
So Dr. Data will be here talking about some percent, 14%. So we'll be going into that. You're listening to Growing Up in America. This is a discussion on our children, public policy. How do we do as a nation and as a state, focusing on all of our kids. And Children at Risk is the voice of Texas's children, and it's produced. We produce this Growing Up in America program each and every week. And thumbs up, thumbs down today. We're not doing, though, because we're going right into hip speak. So I'm going to forego the musical interlude and go right in. We have Raegan just joined us here in the studio. Raegan Roylance, our Gen Z correspondent. And so, Raegan, thank you very much for being on the program, by the way.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. And we always want to know what's going on with our kids. And our kids are developing their own little, and I think every generation sort of has its own little thing.
Definitely.
But your Generation Z, they seem to be sort of leaders in the pack here. Give us an idea. What's the first word? I know you're sort of quizzing me on this because Bree is super hip already.
My first word for you, Bob, is drip.
Oh, drip. So I think about when I was a kid, a drip would have been like a kid who was like not very fun. It was sort of a drip.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So what is it now?
It actually means something to describe someone's outfit or fashion sense.
Is it good or bad?
It's positive.
Oh, so Bree is drip.
She's dripped right now.
I'm dripping.
Oh,
actually.
dripping. Oh, you're dripping. Is that how it would we say that? You're dripping?
Yes.
So pretty much every day when you guys see me, you're thinking, Dr. Bob, he's drip.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Especially with those cardigans you've been breaking out.
Oh,
Yes.
you like the cardigans? No. Yeah. Okay. What's the next one? Raegan?
Our second word is NPC.
NPC. No problem. I don't know. What does it mean?
It's an acronym for a non-playable character, but it's used to describe someone who's kind of robotic.
So you would look at like when you see what's the Trump daughter? What's her name?
Ivanka?
Ivanka Trump. When you see Ivanka Trump, you would say she's a little NPC.
Definitely.
Yeah. Wow. And are there a lot of your fellow Generation Z people that are a little NPC?
Definitely.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that's
they're
sort of
not listening
interesting.
right now.
So they're just a little robotic. Okay, very good. Okay, I like that. I like the whole NPC, and I can see like hearing a presentation and thinking, oh, little NPC. right?
Definitely.
Yeah. So what does it mean again? NPC.
Non-playable character is the acronym, but it's someone who's just kind of going with the flow, very robotic,
And
doesn't
a
have much
non-playable
personality.
character, does that come from like video games?
Video games, yes.
Oh wow, very NPC. All right, hit me with another one.
The next one is the term to touch grass.
Is that to touch grass? Wow, I don't know. Is that like someone who's? I'm just all guessing here. Like someone, I don't know. What does touch grass mean?
It's another way of telling someone they need to go outside and like have a reality check.
Oh, that's good. Oh, now go outside or have a reality check. Which
Kind
one?
of both. Kind of ground yourself.
So give me an idea. Like, what situation would you be in when you say, "Hey, you need to touch grass"?
I feel like someone who has a very out there idea.
So, like in my role, I do a lot of media, and I am completely immersed in social media day in, day out,
Yeah.
catching all the trends, etc.
So every once in a while.
And every once in a while, I get these like kind of crazy ideas, and I'm like, I need to go outside and touch some grass, just recenter, reground myself.
Yeah. Well, Rico, I want to know from your perspective. So Rico's there on the board. Do you understand this stuff? I mean, these words that we know that we've talked about so far, that stuff that you know.
I'm so thankful that I know what's going on right now, so I'm not too old just yet.
Oh wow! So you know touch grass.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow! Very good.
Why
Can you
are
use it in a
looking
sentence
at
for
me?
us?
Sure. You spend too much time online. Go touch some grass.
Wow! Very good.
Sassy.
Okay.
Sorry.
Very good. Yeah, it's good. All right, give us one more, Raegan, Generation Z correspondent.
The next one is Stan.
Stand?
Stan. with an
Stan.
N.
Like Stan.
Yes.
Like Stan the man. It's very comic character-like. I don't know. It's like Stan Lee. I'm just saying. What is it?
So I would be like a Taylor Swift stan. So it's like a big fan, big and loyal
Like
fan.
a huge
Yes.
fan is a Stan.
Yes.
Wow.
So I could stan someone, like your favorite artist.
Yeah. Are you
Anything,
are
really.
you a Taylor Swift stan?
I'm very much a Swiftie.
So
yes.
the world is full of a lot of Taylor Swift stans, aren't
Yes.
there? Yeah.
So many.
Wow. Did you go to, how many of her concerts have you been to?
I went to the one in Houston
Yeah.
last March with my sister, and it was so much fun.
And that's the one.
Yes.
My daughter flew from New York to come to the Houston one and then went to the one in Brooklyn.
My sister went to the one in Nashville as well. I was very jealous.
Yeah. Wow. And have you been to any, Brie?
Taylor Swift concerts?
Yeah.
Absolutely not, no.
Oh, are you not a Swiftie?
I don't have the drip for that kind of concert.
Oh, look at that. Right, very good. All right, Raegan Roylance is our Gen Z correspondent. Thank you for that. Do you have one last one for me, maybe?
I do,
Okay, what's
actually.
what's one more?
The last one is the word cap.
Oh, I know this one. So this is this means like full of it, like it's sort of a lie, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So like
Correct.
BS
That's
is
so
cap.
good.
Cap is like
Yes.
BS. So no cap. This is the best show ever.
Yes.
All right.
Very well said.
Very good. Hey, coming up after the quick musical break, we're going to be talking with Cesar Espinosa, getting back to real life, FIEL, and DACA. We'll be right back here on Growing Up in America.
If you don't wanna see me dancing with somebody, if you wanna believe that anything could stop me, if you don't wanna see me dancing with somebody, if you wanna believe that anything could stop me.
All right, we're back here on Growing Up in America. Hey, this is Pledge Week, by the way. This is the time for you guys to show your support for Growing Up in America and all the programming that happens here on KPFT, on Pacifica. There's so many great programs, but this program, Growing Up in America, is quite unique. And so, Bree, it's so important that people support us and the station and community radio. This is the only program of its kind where we focus on children and families, and it's important that people give it their support.
Absolutely. I mean, we need to sustain free community radio always. It's a huge asset to our city.
Very good. And do you have that? What's the phone number, by the way, for people to call in, Bree? Do we have that phone number handy?
Oh, yes. So it's 713-526-5738.
Very good. All right. And you want to call and press 1 if you want to donate, and that's the way to go. 1 to donate, 713-526-5738 here at Pacifica Radio. Hey, in the studio with us is Cesar Espinosa. He is the Executive Director of FIEL. Cesar, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. For those that don't know what FIEL is, explain it very briefly.
FIEL is Familias Inmigrantes Estudiantes en la Lucha. We're an organization that has been around for over 15 years now, and we work on organizing and supporting undocumented youth and their families.
Yeah. And a number of years ago at Children at Risk, we honored FIEL for the work that they're doing with families, and it's extraordinary. But we live in extraordinary times right now when it comes to immigrants, right? I mean, I remember 20 years ago when we talked about immigrants, we talked about America as a country of immigrants, and this is what was making us stronger. And when we focus on the evidence, it's pretty clear that our strong economy is very much dependent upon immigrants working and immigrants buying and immigrants paying taxes. And it's what's happening right now, yet in this day and age, we have a lot of people who are demonizing immigrants and immigrant families, immigrant children. Talk a little bit about how FIEL is sort of fighting that message.
So unfortunately, in the last decade, the word immigrant has been kind of like turned to a 180, given a 180. It used to be, for many people, it would be a sense of pride, a sense of, bringing something new to the table, bringing new ideas, culture, language. And now here we are, and it's almost turned into a bad word. A lot of people are ashamed to admit that they're immigrants, are ashamed to speak different languages. And it's really bad that has happened. And so here we are. We're in the cusp of an election.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of uncertainty in the immigrant community. There's been many programs that have been pushed forward, like DACA or parole in place. But unfortunately, a lot of the courts have sided against these programs. And some programs like DACA may end up in the Supreme Court. And we all know the way the Supreme Court has made decisions in the last couple of years. And we really don't know what's going to happen to the program.
So when we think about DACA, I mean, what is the sort of the best possible option for DACA? Would it be, if Democrats were elected in both houses? I mean, is there a law that we could pass? And basically what DACA is doing is really just protecting those children that have that are already in the United States, that basically have grown up in the United States, and which seems like a simple level of protection. But what ideally could happen around DACA?
Well, the thing is that, and I'm glad this is a 16-hour program so we can go through the nuances of what could happen, because a lot of things could happen.
Yeah.
There was a point where we did have a Democratic president, a Democratic Congress, and a Senate. And unfortunately, there was not too much done to fix our broken immigration system. So what we need to do is, regardless of who remains in office or who comes back to office or whatever the case may be, we need to advocate for more just policies for immigrants. We need to acknowledge the fact that immigrants are a fabric of our nation, and that many systems and many industries are dependent on immigrant labor.
Yeah, it seems like it's a long ways to sort of change that storyline in America right now, right? I mean, it's a hard battle.
With every day that goes by and everything that's being said, specifically right now during these volatile times, it seems like the end goal is moving further and further away as each day goes along.
Sort of ridiculous.
It's absolutely heartbreaking. It really is. I'm curious, kind of bringing it down to the personal level, is there any advice that you tend to give recipients and their families who are preparing for possible outcomes from very recent happenings that have been going on in the immigration space?
Number one is to ask. Sometimes folks in our community they treat immigration lawyers like the doctor. They would rather not go in so they don't know the bad news.
Yep.
And some people could be eligible for some sort of relief, right? But it's unfortunate that some people just don't go, don't consult. And what we found out a couple of years ago when we did a series of consultations around the city of Houston was that about 30% of people qualified for something. Now, this is a point to give a fair warning in that you need to go to reputable folks as well, because unfortunately, some attorneys out there take these people's vulnerability, and then they tell them, oh yeah, you may be eligible for this, for that, and then they don't. There is no viability for some of these cases. So we at FIEL have attorneys that people can come and consult with. We also have a wide array of vetted attorneys that we can refer people to if we cannot take the people's case.
I think that's so important and so awesome.
Cesar, a tough question that I get a lot, and I'm sure you get as well, is that when we look across the country, certainly in Texas and Florida, and we look at certain populations of immigrants, they tend to be part of the challenge of sort of the anti-immigration. I mean, I think I was on a radio show in Miami, and they were like super anti-immigrant. I mean, the show was in Spanish, and they were clearly immigrants themselves, but they were Cubanos, Venezolanos, but they were anti-immigrant. And you go down to the valley, and while the majority of people there, are going to talk about this the same way you and I would, there's a group of people that are like, oh, I came over legally, my family, and how do we fight that? The very people that you would think would be supportive of DACA sometimes are not.
Well, I mean, I think it's all information or misinformation.
Yeah.
A lot of the times people, like I've been at events and people question me. They're like, how do you like your free cell phone? And how do you like the free healthcare
that whole thing,
and this
yeah.
and that?
Oh, my
and
word.
I'm like, I don't. Where do I get this? Because I just became a legal permanent resident in March, and I didn't qualify for healthcare up until I'm gonna apply for healthcare for the first time in my life after being in this country for 33 years. So, I mean, there's a lot of misconceptions, a lot of misinformation out there. So more importantly, people just need to get informed, get involved, and meet an immigrant and talk to somebody that's living the real day basis.
The level of disinformation is just astounding, isn't it? I mean, that whole thing about free phones and free computers, I can't tell you how many times people have said, well, yeah, they're getting their free computers. Like, no, they're not.
Look, I'm going to say this. I've been saying this in many places, and I'll say it now on KPFT. Somebody smarter than me needs to do a study of why people are buying this misinformation, where they're getting their information from, because a lot of the time, some of the stuff that we hear is just out of left field, out of the park. It's not even in left field anymore. It's just out of the park, what people are saying.
What's your final question, Cesar? What's your best guess? Let's say Harris is elected. Let's say we have a Democratic Congress. What are the chances that DACA, that those children and young adults now that have basically grown up their whole life in the United States, what are the chances that they will have a path to citizenship?
The chances are far greater than if we have another Trump presidency where everything that we have worked for continues to get undone, or other repressive policies. I mean, you hear in the Trump rallies, people are holding signs of deport them all, calling for mass deportations, and even though we know that may not be financially or physically feasible, at the end of the day, the amount of hate and the amount of rhetoric that's creating could be very dangerous.
Yeah. Cesar Espinosa is with FIEL. He's the executive director over there. They do fantastic work. Look them up. Cesar, thank you very much for being on the program today. I hope to have you back, and hopefully we can talk about good news at some point, right?
Thank you so much for having me, and we're big supporters of Children at Risk. Please, support the organization and also support KPFT.
All right. Thank you so much. Cesar Espinosa. Coming up after the break, Melanie McGuire is with us. She's with the Houston Food Bank. We're going to be talking about some of the trends around hunger and food insecurity. We'll be right back here on Growing Up in America. All right, we're back here on Growing Up in America. Coming up next, we're going to be talking with Melanie McGuire. She's the Senior Director of Programs over at the Houston Food Bank. We want to thank Cesar from FIEL for being here in the studio with us. Bree, just the whole DACA thing is just heartbreaking, right?
It's horrible to hear about. And the more I heard about the disinformation and the free computers and 33 years without health insurance, I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, I know.
We need a pathway. Yeah. We just do.
Another heartbreaking thing is the amount of food insecurity in our community. Melanie McGuire is with us. She's with the Houston Food Bank. Melanie, how are you doing today?
Doing well, thank you.
Very good, very good. Hey, give us an idea of what's going on in terms of some of these major trends that you see going on, broader trends at the Houston Food Bank.
Yeah, so happy to share. I think we have been on a journey, right? And so we have, we think about the pandemic and the increase of food insecurity that we saw with people waiting for food and needing food assistance. And what we're finding is that we're not really seeing those decreases that we would expect to see after kind of any type of disaster, be a pandemic or natural disaster. What we're seeing is an elevated leveling off of an increased rate of food insecurity among families who are struggling to kind of put food on the table while also being able to, address other needs in their household. And so because food ends up being one of those flexible expenses, you can't pay half your rent, you can't pay half your utilities, but what we're hearing is families are cutting back on food, and as a result of that, are turning to us for assistance.
Melanie, one of the things that when we look at hunger and food insecurity in Texas specifically, what we see is that the natural ways that people can sort of alleviate family food insecurity, like applying for SNAP and getting free school lunch. And, we underutilize a lot of those things in Texas. And part of it is we don't always make it easy. And I've heard people say, well, the food bank, there's a good food bank in Houston. That should be enough to sort of alleviate food insecurity. But the fact of the matter is that the food bank in many ways is just a filler, but people really need to be applying for SNAP and so what we used to call food stamps. But we do a poor job in Texas of getting families there, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the charitable food system cannot replace what effective programs such as SNAP provide to households. And what we're specifically looking to do, so the Houston Food Bank really employs this method around how do we, connect folks to the services that they need, and how do we work with organizations that are addressing root causes of food insecurity by addressing programs in the health, education, and economic mobility space. And one of the things we're very intentional about is how are we connecting families who are maybe coming in seeking emergency food assistance or seeking services to programs like SNAP. Oftentimes we hear that, it can be something as simple as not knowing where to go or having misconceptions of what that program is or isn't. And so being able to really meet people where they are, provide them that immediate need that the charitable food system can provide, but then also address their long-term needs through connections to programs and services.
I love that you mentioned the programs and services, and I'm really curious about Houston Food Bank is such a big organization, and it collaborates so well across the state and across their city. So can you just kind of chat a little about the collaborations with local schools or maybe some educational systems that you guys have expanded lately?
Yeah, so, we really feel that at the root cause of much of what we see around food insecurity ties to economics. And so, investments in programs and education, starting from, the ability for children to have early childhood education, foundational education through their high school years and graduation, and then, whether it's certification programs at colleges or local community colleges, education is so foundational to someone's ability to access, employment that gets them the services they need. And so we've been really partnering. We've had strong relationships with schools across our region, and we partner with them in numerous ways to be able to provide on-site assistance. Schools also are just very community-based organizations that people trust. And so, in this quarter alone, starting in July, we have over 900 school partners across our region. And these are charter schools, these are public schools, these are organizations that are embedded in schools. And we're really just looking around how do we implement strategies that support children and families year-round.
Melanie, you mentioned schools, and we know that around Thanksgiving, around Christmas, around the holidays, there's a lot of people donate, the Super Bowl for hunger. And, people really feel like, in Thanksgiving itself, right, people feel like, hey, I want to make sure that people are being fed. But for many families, and certainly for children, the hungriest time of the year is the summer. And one of the ways that the U.S. Department of Agriculture has decided to sort of fight this is with these EBT cards that they are doing in many states where families get these EBT cards so that they can get food during the summer. Texas declined those this last year. They said that they weren't prepared to do it. Is this something we see changing in the upcoming summer, Melanie?
We're hopeful, right? We know that when families have access to things like the EBT programs, they're able to better, as you mentioned, provide food and assistance to their to children year-round, and particularly over the summer where we see high rates of food insecurity. Surprisingly, despite all these great programs we have for children, child food insecurity in Texas is still one of the highest in the nation, right? And so we really we strongly encourage programs like the PBT program. And what we've offered to the state is, in what ways can community-based organizations like the Houston Food Bank help? We understand that sometimes these are pretty heavy administrative lifts. And so, we really think of like the most strategic partnerships we have, programs where we've helped families sign up for SNAP and go into communities where there may not be a local office. We'd love to do the same with, these kind of programs and really leverage our collective resources to better service our community.
I just love the community attention that you're bringing to that. That's amazing. And y'all are just such wonderful people over at the food bank, really. I think we have just time for one more question. So I wanted to ask you, as you kind of predict the future a little bit and look ahead and kind of predict these trends, are there anything that you anticipate will influence future demand for food and for access to these resources and more education to access these resources?
Yeah, we're really paying attention to a lot of trends right now, and we're specifically looking at, in what ways can we co-locate food assistance with other community-based programs to meet families' needs. We understand that some of the biggest challenges that we hear from residents are, having to go to one place for one location for one service and then go somewhere completely across town for something else. And so we're really making heavy investments in strategic partnerships. In what ways can we help reduce that economic burden for families? We know that two of the biggest rising areas of need that we hear about are transportation and housing. And so it does mean that we have to look at the way we do our work differently. And we're really excited about forging partnerships with healthcare, continuing to grow partnerships with certification programs and higher education institutions, and workforce development programs, in which ways that they can leverage food as someone's going through a class or a program to really offset maybe some of those expenses that families are often faced between choosing food or those other needs.
Melanie McGuire is the Senior Director of Programs at the Houston Food Bank, the largest and arguably the best food bank in the world. And we're not just kidding, Melanie, when we say that, right? It's true.
We are not. We just got the stats. We are still the largest food bank in the country under Feeding America. So it's very interesting. Hey, say hi to my buddy Brian Green, who's the CEO over there. And thank you, Melanie, very much for being on Growing Up in America today. Absolutely. Thanks for having me. All righty. Coming up after the quick break, time for Dr. Data. Dr. Chris Gulessa from Rice University's Baker Institute will be here in just a minute. The number of the day, 14%. We'll be right back here on Growing Up in America.
You're listening to Growing Up in America here on KPFT Pacifica Radio. Bree, it's Pledge Week, and so Pledge Month. It's Pledge Time here on KPFT. If you want to support Growing Up in America, or if you want to support KPFT, or both, give us a call, 713-526-5738, and option 1 to donate. And a unique program, and the real key, right, to this program is sort of getting in deep on what's happening with our kids, looking at issues that maybe others are not talking about, figuring out how do we at a systems level begin to solve some of the key challenges facing the majority of our kids here in Texas. 65% of all the children in Texas are growing up in low-income households. And so that means they have some big problems. And this is one of the things we talk about here on KPFT, here on Growing Up in America.
It is, yeah. And I mean, if you look at history, all system change starts with a conversation, and that's what we're doing right here.
713-526-5738, 713-526-5738. Donate on option 1. Dr. Chris Kulesa is with us, and so we want to talk a little bit about data of the day. Chris, how you been doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very good, very good. So 14%. We're trying to figure out what 14. I'm guessing it has something to do with the percentage of children. Is that right?
Not quite. It's more with educators.
I'm like way off.
Oh.
Okay. Tell us about this, Chris. What is it?
So 14% is a decline in music education graduates of the past decade.
Oh, wow.
So there's some good news mixed in with all of this, not specifically with the decline, but what's going on with music education. So there is a lot of conversation about cuts in music programs at the high school and the middle school level. That is indeed true, but information coming from the Arts Education Data Project show that still 92% of kids across the United States have access to music education. So that's the good news. Of course, the bad news is that there's still that 8% that does not.
And that's a big percentage, it really is, considering all the kids in America.
It really is, of course. And looking at the benefits of music education, there are quite a few, of course. So we find that students that are in music education, they end up having lower dropout rates. They end up doing better in terms of their test scores. They have better social development. So really focusing in on music education is still really important. It's still very important for school districts to invest in that.
Dr. Data, I wanted to ask you, Chris, I've heard a lot of the research that shows that kids who do music education in school, that they tend to do better in math. I mean, is that still true, or is that sort of just a rumor?
No, that is still indeed true. Indeed, with the way that music education relates to brain and the brain development, and with also critical thinking skills, math does indeed improve when you're in a music program. And I should note as well, though, you bring up a very interesting point with this, because we're starting to see cuts in places where there's heavier emphasis on outcomes with test scores. Mm-hmm. That's part of what's driving this. So there's a concern that, we need to do well on these standardized test scores, so we're not going to be paying as much attention to the arts programs or the music programs. But that is actually counterproductive, because as students are enrolled in music and arts programs, they end up doing better in areas like math, science, and literature. It's all interconnected. So, the point really is that it's looking at this holistically. By doing that, you're actually damaging the outcomes in the areas that you're hoping to improve by cutting music programs. So it really doesn't make any sense.
And if we do any comparisons, whether it's from other states or other communities or other countries that are doing better academically, oftentimes, almost always, you find that they have these arts and music programs as well that are sort of part of the curriculum, right? It's part of this whole well-roundedness that we want out of students.
It really is, and it gets down to this idea of tackling the whole child, right? That child development is not just, when it comes to academics, students sitting down in a classroom reading. There is much more to it, right? Being able to make sure that they're engaged in their music programs and arts, but also in physical activity. So when it comes down to it, we really don't hit the mark on that.
Yeah. Did you play an instrument as a youngster? Did you take any instrument or music classes when you were a kid, Chris?
I did. So I played the saxophone.
Oh,
I
wow.
did alto saxophone for symphonic band and then the baritone saxophone for jazz.
Wow.
But every once in a while, I will pull out my saxophone. My 3-year-old son asks me to play the saxophone for him.
And your wife quickly says, please put it away.
Actually, no, she
Oh, look at
encourages
that.
me to
Look at
play in
that.
front of Christopher. Yes.
Oh, very
She
good.
really encourages me to play it. So I don't have, of course, as much time as I used to, but I still try to make time. So.
Yeah. Bree, did you do a musical instrument at all?
I did.
What did you do?
I tried my hand at piano. I was terrible at it,
Yeah.
but I loved the clarinet.
Oh, look
That's
at
my
that.
jam.
Very good, very good. Chris Kulesa is out at the Baker Institute at Rice University, and he is our always Dr. Data. Thank you, Chris, for being on the program. And Chris, you're going to be like co-hosting with us in the near future. Is that right?
Just a few weeks.
That I will be. I will be co-hosting next week.
Oh, yeah,
next week.
This fall is flying by, you guys.
Wow. I think I'm in Mexico City next week, but I'm going to try to tune in just so I could hear you, Dr. Kulesa. So anyway, thanks so much, man, and we'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Take care.
Right. Thank you very much. You're listening to KPFT, Pacifica Radio. Coming up next, Shirvonti Keller is with Cherish Our Children. We'll be talking a little bit about supporting students with incarcerated family members. We'll be right back here on Growing Up in America. You're listening to Growing Up in America, and coming up on the program, we have Shirvonti Keller. She is with Cherish Our Children. Vaughn Keller, how you doing, Vaughn?
I am doing amazing. How are you guys?
Very, very good. Yeah, thank you so much. Tell us, Vaughn, a little bit about what you guys are doing, because I just think it's extraordinary, the type of work that you're doing. So briefly, what is it that you guys are up to?
So our organization, Cherish Our Children, they always have been focused on servicing communities and students that are deeply in need and that have been impacted. And so they actually created a program called GEMS, which stands for Gaining Empowerment in Middle School. And our primary focus with the GEMS program is servicing students who have a parent who is incarcerated.
That's amazing. I love that little acronym as well, too. GEMS just sounds so uplifting in a way, just when you look at it. So I'm curious, talking a little bit more about the kids and the reason for this work. What challenges do these students face, and how does GEMS specifically help them overcome it?
So our students who have a parent that's incarcerated are at risk for health, psychological, and academic challenges. They're more likely to drop out of school. They're more likely to be absent. They're more likely to receive poor grades or be suspended or have behavioral problems and even exhibit what seems to be like a learning disability because of the situations that are going on at home and them carrying this weight on a daily basis and not being able to really digest it or fully understand what's going on. And so as a whole, the GEMS program, we really do our best to kind of recreate that village-like structure to help support the child's emotional, social, and physical needs as they find their balance within themselves and their identity. Because you've got to remember, middle school is
Wow.
puberty, you know?
It's hard. It's
already
very
a hard time. Yes. And so as they build their sense of self-worth and their self-concept, and their self-esteem, we really want to help them see things from a perspective that empowers them. And so GEMS, Gaining Empowerment in Middle School, that's what we do, and specifically for this demographic. So Cherish Our Children has a 3-pronged holistic approach where we help the school, the family, and role models and exposure. So we go into the schools and we do sessions once a week with small groups of students in those particular schools that we're in. And we also do our best to connect with the families to see what areas that we can help them with. And we work with the school administrators and local community organizations to provide and alleviate anything that family may need that may be causing that child to not focus on, their math, you know what I'm saying, or whatever core curriculum is going on, because they're focused on, the fact that they don't have food at home or that they're sleeping on a couch because they don't have a bed and maybe, another person or another family is moving in with them, things like that. So really helping alleviate the social needs and the family needs, and also giving that child the support that they need within that school day, an emotional support that they need, as well as exposing them to role models and individuals who have been where they are and who have overcome those challenges, where they can see themselves within a young adult or an adult who has reached the goals that our children desire to reach.
I love, Vaughn, this whole holistic approach, right? This idea that we're going to help them with many needs. We're going to help them with psychological needs, right, by doing the group. We're going to do a little hand-holding, but we're also going to get families and the schools involved. When you look at schools, really, and this is across our country, we don't have enough social workers in the schools. We don't have enough counselors in the schools. How much of a challenge does that pose for these children that have specific needs, right, with their parents being incarcerated? Not only is it one parent less, but it's the trauma of that parent also being incarcerated, and the low income of this family. I mean, what is it, when you think about some of these needs and what we're not getting out of the system, what comes to mind for you, Vaughn?
So honestly, it really comes back down to attention. And Dr. Chris, he definitely had it right in speaking about it all being interconnected.
Yeah.
And so the thing about it is that some of your school districts actually do offer assistance. They actually do offer additional therapy. They actually do offer family counseling at little to no cost. They have the resources, but you have to remember when a family is going through this type of situation, it really shifts a person into survival mode. And so even though our communities have resources, sometimes because our families are in survival mode, they're not accessing those resources. And they don't have the energy to go through the process a lot of times. You filled out some paperwork for insurance before.
Yeah.
It's nerve-wracking. And so, once again, we like to kind of bring that village back. And so when we're in the classrooms and we hear certain things pertaining to our students' experiences, we definitely advocate for them. So I think that one of the things that they need is advocates. They need people to find them, and they need people to advocate for their needs, because we have to remember they're children. And so with the GEMS program, we advocate for not only our students, but also our families. And so basically, we work with our school administrators to get them the counseling sessions that the students need, and even helping our parents, caregivers, get the counseling sessions that they need at little to no cost. And so I think a lot of times we believe that these resources aren't out there, but the truth of the matter is that there's resources out there. It's just a matter of helping someone through the process and really being that backbone support for them to complete the process and get the help they need.
Oh, I have chills hearing you talk. This is amazing, amazing stuff, and I'm just thrilled that we have you on the show today. I'm curious, we focus a lot on the mental health a little bit, but I want to just dive into that and ask you about any of the key skills or coping mechanisms that students in this program will develop with you guys, beyond just the immediate crisis intervention, things that will help them kind of break the intergenerational cycle of either poverty or incarceration, all the things that are mixed into that bag right there.
Yes, so that is my favorite part. I am not going to lie to you, because I feel like this is like the real entree of life. So our program, when we go in and we meet with students once a week, and in some schools twice a week, we focus on social and emotional learning skills. And so what that is, for those who are not aware, that's self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. So as you know, those are the core key driving factors of our life.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? You can be smart as everything, you can have the best job, but ultimately, if you don't know how to manage your emotions, if you can't build that self-confidence, if you don't have key quality relationship skills, I think we have a lot of people who are still out here looking for a good relationship with their friends, with their parents, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, we teach the core skills that is needed for you to survive in general. And so giving them the skill set that they need to overcome the situation now within their family structure, but also overcome whatever social situations that they're going through, and really start to develop the skills to overcome life challenges. So basically, when it comes to a little bit more details on those skills, we teach them how to identify their emotions, identify emotions within others when they're communicating, identify healthy coping skills like, journaling, breathing techniques, exercise, music, dance. I think Dr. Chris was talking on that as well. We also help them identify what are unhealthy coping skills. And so really highlighting some of the things that, society kind of makes, like it's so cool, drinking, drugs, promiscuity. We highlight what are considered unhealthy coping skills to hope and basically notify our students, not to fall into those traps, because that's exactly what they are. They're traps to keep you stagnant. And then we encourage our students to create their own plans to manage those overwhelming emotions, and how to acknowledge and sit with those emotions, but also shift out of those emotions for the greater good of their goals as well as them and everyone around them. Wow. And so that's just a snippet of what we do.
Yeah, that's very good. Vaughn Keller is the program manager with Cherish Our Children. They have a great program called GEMS, which is focusing on children of incarcerated parents. Vaughn, thank you very much for the work that you and all your colleagues at Cherish Our Children are doing. And thanks for being on Growing Up in America today.
Oh, thank you. And if you align with our program and want to help, please visit cherishourchildren.org and donate. We truly appreciate it.
Very good. Thank you so much. Coming up after the break, we're going to be talking with Ryan Fountain. He's with Out for Education. We'll be talking about LGBTQ plus students and some of the challenges that they are facing in our schools. We'll be right back here on Growing Up in America.
Ey, ey, y yo no quiero ver el mundo arder, pero algo tan bonito no se puede perder. El reloj no quiere morder, pero en tus brazos me voy a esconder. Ey, pa' que no me encuentren, todo el mundo siempre está pendiente.
You're listening to Growing Up in America here on KPFT Pacifica Radio. It's pledge drive time here at KPFT. And briefly, we just want to make sure that you understand that when you support KPFT, you're supporting a whole range of programs, wonderful programs that are community-based, no advertising here on the station, and programs like Growing Up in America, which is unique in and of itself. 713-526-5738 is the number. 713-526-5738, option 1 to donate. We hope that you'll become and continue to be part of the KPFT Pacifica Radio family. Ryan Fountain is on the line with us. Ryan is Out for Education, which is a group focusing on LGBTQ plus students in Houston. And Ryan, how are you doing, man?
Hey, good afternoon. I'm great. How are you doing?
Very good. Hey, tell us a little bit about what you guys are up to at Out for Education, sort of the basic mission of the organization.
Yeah, definitely. So we at Out for Education are really big into giving scholarships to our LGBTQ plus youth or children of parents who identify as part of that community. Yeah. We started back in 1999 as part of the PFLAG and Hatch programs in the city of Houston came together and formed a scholarship program. And then in 2013, they decided to rebrand and create Out for Education. So we've been going strong since 1999, really, and throughout the years, I've given out over 400 scholarships and over $2 million in scholarship giving to students in need.
Ryan, there are certain challenges, right, that LGBTQ students have, certainly bullying being one of them. And there was a time when we thought things were getting better, but I'm not sure they're getting better anymore, right? I mean, it's like we've taken a couple of steps back. Talk a little bit about some of the challenges that kids are facing in our schools. I mean, many are not coming out, but some are coming out and they're still facing these challenges.
Yeah, definitely. I think, our kids are thankfully growing up in an environment with their peers that seem to be more accepting.
Yeah.
And it seems to be, the parents and family members who are still struggling. I will say with our organization, we get to meet a lot of students through our interview process who come to us and their parents don't know they're even interviewing for this scholarship, or they come to us and ask us to call them by their preferred names and preferred pronouns. We've even had so much as a kid come in and be asked to be called by their male identifying pronoun on their name tag, but took it off when they left so that their mom wouldn't know that
Wow.
they requested that. So there's still, I would say in the schools, yes, there's people who are still struggling with that, but it's more so at home, I believe, that, family members are still struggling with the different identities and accepting their children.
Yeah. And when we think about, we talked in the previous segment about mental health in the schools and the sort of the lack of counseling and stuff. And I do get, right, when we go to the schools, we see that other kids are incredibly accepting, right, of their fellow classmates, much more so than adults might be. But still the lack of mental health counseling to deal with the trauma of those adults that they're encountering as they get out of school. I mean, that's one of the big challenges for LGBTQ plus students.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We definitely need more mental health resources in our schools. I know there are some districts who are really fighting for that and doing a better job than they have in the past, but there can never be enough. I mean, I would say the same thing about any adult. Mental health is just not a priority for enough people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very, very well said. Very well said. I am curious, as we're talking about this issue and considering the mental health, the holistic well-being of children that we've talked about throughout the entire episode, what are you noticing in the kids that are coming to apply to you right now and the students who are applying with you guys? Are there any trends beyond what we've just been discussing with the kind of cultural shift that you've noticed?
I've been on the board for 2 years, and I noticed, and just from what our records state, is that there's more need now than ever for this financial help with the kids, in addition, to their mental health. But what I'm seeing is kids are coming to us more proud of who they are, and they're also still shocked to see that there are proud and successful LGBTQ plus adults in this world. And what I mean by that is we had a very nice letter written by one of our recipients who said it wasn't until the interview where she actually had met another adult who identified as part of the community, who wasn't afraid of who they are, and who was also very successful in their career and their personal life. And I read that at our last board meeting, and it brought some of the board members to tears, because that's the reality. Is there's not representation in our culture in the business world, or even in education, for these students to see adults succeeding and living their truest life. And so that's one thing that we at Out for Education really strive for. We partner the students up with a mentor in their field. We try to match someone who maybe has gone to the same university and who also identifies as part of the LGBTQIA plus community, to kind of coach them through their college years and help them out with just navigating the world of being an adult and being identifying, as queer.
Ryan Fountain is with Out for Education, focusing on LGBTQ plus students. Time for our fast, fun questions, Bree. Ryan, we're near Halloween time. What was your favorite costume as a kid that you wore?
Oh, definitely a clown.
The clown.
Cute.
That's sort of scary. That's sort of scary, Ryan, right? The little clown. So.
Not a creepy clown. I think I was definitely a happy clown for like 3 or 4 years in a row.
And what was the favorite food that when your mom or dad were cooking at home that you were like, oh, I'm so excited to have dinner tonight because we're having, what was it?
So specifically Halloween, my mom would cook Halloweenies, which is hot dogs wrapped in a croissant crust and chips crumbled on top of that. And then having some like mustard and ketchup on that. It was our Halloween night dinner every year.
Were those like those Pillsbury crescent rolls wrapped around your hot dog? Yeah.
Yeah. They were delicious.
Delicious.
Now I'm hungry. That's not fair.
Oh, I'm not hungry for those.
I made them for myself last year because I was like, I just see.
Oh no, that's pure reminiscing right there. So.
I'm curious, what was your favorite class when you were in school? We've talked a lot about school today.
Yeah, I loved my science classes, but I My favorite class is definitely music. I was a band kid. I, in fact, got my undergrad in music education from Michigan State University. So it was definitely something I took on to college with me.
The Fighting Spartans, right? So there you go. Yep.
I just have one final question,
Yep.
if I may.
Yep.
What did you play? I'm curious. We've been talking about music this whole time now, so we might as well just go full circle with this last question.
Definitely, I was a French horn major.
Oh,
Very
excellent.
cool.
Very good. Very rare, right? I mean, you know this as well, Ryan. It's very rare that you find a good French horn player. So, not to say you were good or not. I don't know, but I'm just assuming. So very good. Ryan Fountain is with Out for Education. Ryan, thank you very much for being a part of our program, and thank you for all your colleagues for all the work that you're doing with kids in our schools.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys for having us. And if you guys ever want to learn more, you can feel free to visit our website, outforeducation.org, or follow us on Instagram, Out for Ed Houston. We are very active on there.
Very good. Thank you so much, Ryan. And that's it for us this week, Bree. And did you have a favorite Halloween candy, by the way? I'm just wondering.
I'm a sucker for Reese's always.
Oh, Reese's.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah. Almond Joys. I love Almond Joys. Right.
We do love a good Almond Joy, actually.
And at my house, we give away the big, huge, king size candy bars. So
I'll be stopping by your house when I go trick or treating.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I have the regulars who come even as they become teenagers, because for 20 years I've been doing these because I'm 21 years old. So I've been doing it. So anyway, we will see everyone next time here on Growing Up in America.
With a dream, my cardigan. Welcome to the land of fame excess. Am I gonna fit in? Jumped in the cab, here I am for the first time. Look to my right and I see the Hollywood sign. This is all so crazy. Everybody seems so famous. My tummy's turning and I'm feeling kinda homesick. Too much pressure and I'm nervous. That's when the taxi man turned on the radio and a Jay-Z song was on. And the Jay-Z song was on. And the Jay-Z song was on. So I put my hands up to play my song. The butterflies fly away. Nodding my head like yeah. Moving my hips like yeah. Got my hands up to play my song. You know I'm gonna be okay. Yeah. It's a party in the USA. Yeah. It's a party in the USA.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? By their clothes? Their age? The way they speak? Would you notice a 16-year-old boy who got his first job?
Not for extra spending money, but to help feed his little sisters?
Or a mother who's in between jobs and sometimes goes to bed hungry so her kids can have dinner? Or a 14-year-old girl who signs up to every after-school activity not to make friends, but just to get something to eat? Or a retiree who fell ill and had to choose
between getting medicine or groceries.
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. People you pass by every day but never knew were hungry. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
This is KPFT Houston, 90.1 FM and FM HD1.
As I drove down old 65, I was cruising down that old grapevine. Well, I must have been doing at least about 95. Well, up there on the side of the road, all broke down. Who do you think was standing around but the greatest country singer alive? Well, I'll fix your flat tire, Merle. Don't you get your sweet country picking fingers all covered with earl? Oh, you're a honky, I know, but Merle, you got soul. And I'll fix your flat tire, Merle. Well, I hear you had adventure shoes, making love in a telephone booth, and I even hear you did a little stretch in jail. But now you got a big ranch house with a bar and 8, 9, 10 of them fancy cars, and every other week a check coming in the mail. What? I'll fix your flat tire, Merle. Don't you get your sweet country picking fingers all covered with earl? Oh, you're a honky, I know, but fix your flat tire, Merle. Well, I heard all them records you did, making fun of us long-haired kids, and now you know